Hey everybody, my name is Lee, and in this video I'm going to share how I'm doing fig propagation this year. I'm using a method called fig pops, which is more space efficient than what I did last year. Last winter I grew figs for the first time from cuttings, and I went a little overboard. I had a lot of cuttings planted, and it took up a lot of space, and it also took up a lot of time to water each container. So this year I decided to try something new with this technique called fig pops, which just uses a bag and it's quite simple. It takes up a lot less space. So I'm going to show you how I'm doing it this year. You're going to need to find yourself a fig cutting. So what I did was I found this tree in my neighborhood that produced really good figs. I don't know what variety it is, but I asked the person who was living there if I could have some, and they said go for it. So I took two branches off this beautiful old fig tree, and I'm using these branches to try to create new figs. I used regular pruning shears to snip off a branch that was about half an inch or 3/4 of an inch thick. Then to make your cutting, you want to measure about 3 nodes. So the nodes are the little bumps, you can see them there. There's kind of two parts of a node. The bottom bump is where leaves grow from, and the top bump is where the fruit will grow from. So you want to make sure to get at least 3 of the nodes in your cutting. After I took the cuttings from the branches, I started preparing the soil. I used this propagation mix that was recommended by a local nursery. I'm not a soil expert, so I just rely on people who have a lot of experience, and this is what they use at the nursery for starting their vegetables and doing propagation projects. So that's what I did, and I mixed it with some compost and topsoil mixture that I use for some raised beds. And I chose that as the medium because it has good drainage, and the compost topsoil mixture gives a little more nutrients for these cuttings to grow over the season. After that, I added water to the soil. So I wanted to create a mixture that was evenly moist, not too dry, but not too wet. And the test for that is grabbing a handful of the soil and squeezing it. And when you do that, it should not be leaking out a lot of water, and it shouldn't be dry and crumbly. So it should kind of stick together, but not drip a lot of water when you squeeze it. Once the soil was moist, I started filling these 14 by 6-inch plastic bags with the soil. And this becomes the pot or container, if you will, for the cutting. I filled these bags about 2/3 of the way to the top. Before I put the cuttings in the soil, I did some wounding. This is a propagation tip I learned about where you scratch off part of the outer layer of the cutting near the bottom where you want the roots to grow. And this will, in some ways that I cannot scientifically explain, trigger the cutting to produce roots down there. I did it last year and had some success, so I'm doing it again this year on most of my cuttings as well. Now watch as I demonstrate how not to plant your fig. So the idea is correct. You want to put the cutting in the soil and pack it down in there about halfway. But you don't want the cutting to move like at all while it's in there. So I didn't pack it enough here. The rubber band is good, but I did a poor job of actually like securing the plant in place. So a couple days later, I realized my mistake and I went back and yeah, see how it's all soft in there and it's kind of like limpy. Uh, that means the fig is not really stable in there. So I knew that I needed to create a more tighter, compact soil base for it. So I liked this technique a lot more, pounding it against a hard surface to get all the soil to fall and compact the bottom part of the bag, and then taking my hand around the cutting and pressing the soil down, so really compacting it a lot, then twisting from there, taking the rubber band, and while holding it in place, get the initial connection with the rubber band once, right there, and now it's in place, and you can kind of just wrap it around a few more times, and then eventually take the rubber band around the bottom so you have it in place horizontally and vertically, and it's a lot more compact here. This one just looks and feels a lot better. Don't forget to label your cuttings. If you're doing a lot, you may forget that what you've planted, so be sure to label that. I use some masking tape and a Sharpie. So that's pretty much it. That's how I'm trying to propagate figs this year. If you have some cuttings, soil, a bag, and some rubber bands, you can do this too. Now, one thing I did forget to show was poking holes in the bag. So you want to make sure that that soil has air to breathe in and out. So take a toothpick and just pop some holes all around that bag. Give your cuttings some air to breathe in and out, and that'll give them a better chance at actually developing roots. I hope you found this video helpful and maybe inspiring if you're interested in growing figs. All you really need is cutting from a branch, some soil, and a little bag. And then with some luck and some mercy, you might find yourself with a fig tree. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. I appreciate it. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.